Okay, so today we're diving deep into childhood apraxia of speech.
CAS.
CAS, and we know you're looking for that solid understanding right away, so we thought we would, cut through the noise and get right to some of the good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no one really has the time to sift through all the different, articles and websites out there.
Exactly.
We want to sort of help you get a grasp on the essentials.
Right.
And really, I think a good place to start is understanding, the resources that are available to really sort of get a handle on this topic.
That's a great point, actually. So, thinking about that, we wanted to make sure we point out a couple of those, in our deep dive today.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, where would you even start with something like that?
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of different places you could go, but I think for me, a good starting point is always looking at some of the, reputable organizations.
Right.
And some of the websites out there that really specialize in this.
Okay, so we're talking organizations, informational websites.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into it.
Sounds good.
Where do we even begin?
Well, I think the first one that comes to mind for me, whenever I'm thinking about CAS is Apraxia Kids.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're really kind of, the leading organization specifically for CAS.
For sure.
And what's great about them is, they have a really comprehensive resource center on their website, and they really focus on like direct support for families.
Oh, wow.
And individuals dealing with CAS. So, it's not just about the clinical information.
Right.
It's really about giving you that practical help that you need.
Yeah. I could see how that'd be so valuable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, they have these guides on different therapy techniques that you might encounter.
Okay.
Like one that comes to mind is dynamic, tactile, and gestural cueing.
Wow. So this is actually helping, the families learn how to work with their children.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, so dynamic, tactile, and gestural cueing. It's really about helping kids physically understand how to make sounds. So, you're using touch, you're using gestures, you're really giving them those extra cues.
Got it. So it's not just, saying the sound over and over again. It's really helping them physically make those sounds.
Yeah.
Wow. So where would they find that?
So all of that is on their website, apraxiakids.org.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm taking notes. apraxiakids.org. That's great.
Yeah, definitely check them out.
Awesome. And then so that's sort of, really targeted at families. But what about, for maybe professionals or people who are just looking for more of that, really in-depth professional perspective?
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for more of the clinical information, then the American Speech Language Hearing Association, or ASHA, is a fantastic resource.
Okay, ASHA, I've heard of them.
Yeah, they provide really detailed information on, everything from the characteristics of CAS
to how it's assessed to the different treatment options that are available.
Wow. So they really dive deep into that clinical side of things.
They do. Yeah. They really do. I mean, and one of the things that I find really interesting about their materials is that, they really get into how professionals differentiate CAS from other speech disorders.
Oh, wow. That's got to be tricky.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. But one of the key things they talk about is looking at the inconsistency of errors that a child makes.
Oh, okay. So a child with CAS, their errors might be more random,
more inconsistent, right?
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so that's one of the hallmarks of CAS, that you'll see these errors, but they won't be consistent. They might be able to say a sound one time,
right,
and then not be able to say it the next time.
That's so helpful for understanding, really what's going on.
Right, and then they also, go into the different evidence-based treatment approaches.
Oh, perfect. So they give you sort of the why behind the what.
Exactly.
That's great. Okay. So we've got Apraxia Kids, we've got ASHA, and then another one that comes to mind for me is the Mayo Clinic.
Oh yeah, the Mayo Clinic's a great one too. I mean, they offer a really good general overview of CAS.
Right.
So they cover the basics.
Okay.
The symptoms, potential causes. They talk about, how CAS is often a motor planning issue. Mm-hmm. It's not about muscle weakness.
Okay.
So that's a really important distinction.
Yeah.
And then they talk about diagnosis and treatment strategies.
Perfect. So if you're really, just looking to get your feet wet, this is a good place to start.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a solid foundation for understanding the condition as a whole.
Great. And then we've got a couple more here.
Yeah.
The Hanen Centre.
The Hanen Centre.
So they focus on a little bit broader of a topic. They focus on, children's language development in general.
Exactly.
What do they have to offer for CAS?
Well, what's really fascinating about the Hanen Centre in the context of CAS is their emphasis on empowering parents.
Oh, okay.
You know, they really believe that parents can play a crucial role in their child's therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And so they offer these resources and programs that teach parents how to become more effective communication partners for their children.
Wow.
You know, so it's not just about the therapist working with the child. It's really about
the whole family.
The whole family being involved in that support system.
Well, that's so important.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting angle.
Yeah, it's definitely a different perspective, but it's a really vital one.
Totally. And then we also have a couple of Wikipedia entries here.
Yeah.
One specifically for developmental verbal dyspraxia.
Yeah, and you know, it's important to recognize that that term, developmental verbal dyspraxia,
right,
it's frequently used as another term for CAS.
So it's the same?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, and so that Wikipedia article, you know, it gives you a fairly in-depth look at CAS.
Okay.
You know, it talks about some of the characteristics like the difficulty with sequencing sounds, the inconsistent speech errors, and then it also, you know, provides information on diagnosis and management.
Perfect.
So it's a good kind of like one-stop shop if you're looking for a sort of broad overview.
Nice. And then finally, we have Wikipedia's just general page on apraxia.
Right.
So how does that fit into all of this?
Well, that's a really good resource if you're looking to get kind of like the bigger picture.
Okay.
You know, it explains what apraxia is in general. So it talks about the different types of apraxia.
Got it.
So, you know, not just speech apraxia.
Right.
But, you know, things like limb apraxia, where someone might have difficulty coordinating their movements.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then it discusses, you know, common causes and treatment approaches.
So it helps to understand that CIS is really just one specific type.
Exactly. It puts it into that broader context.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so, wow, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've gone from, you know, very specific support organizations to professional guidelines to general overviews. It sounds like there really is a lot out there depending on, you know, what you're trying to understand.
There is. And that's why I think it's so helpful to have these different resources.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you might be coming at it from the perspective of a parent.
Right.
You might be a professional who's looking to, you know, really understand the clinical aspects of it. Or you might just be someone who's, you know, newly encountering this term and you just want to kind of get a basic understanding.
Right. So the key takeaway here is that there are numerous reputable places to learn about CAS.
Exactly.
Whether you're looking for practical advice, in-depth clinical information, or a general understanding.
I mean, the resources are out there.
They are.
So no matter what your level of knowledge is, there's something out there for you.
And for our listener, you know, specifically who's looking to get informed quickly,
yeah,
all of these resources really offer those different levels of detail, different perspectives.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah.
You know, you can really find what you need.
It is. So this leads to kind of a really interesting thought. You know, for you, the listener, given this variety of resources, which particular aspect of CIS do you think sparks your curiosity the most right now?
I mean, is it understanding the diagnostic process?
Right.
Is it learning about the different therapy techniques, or is it, you know, exploring how families can best provide support?
Yeah. I mean, really, what is it about this topic that makes you want to keep learning?
Right. And I think, you know, that's what's so great about these resources is that you can delve into them with your specific questions in mind.
Absolutely. So we really encourage you to do that. And until next time, happy deep diving.
Yeah. Happy deep diving.